On Sunday, February 25th, 2024, the Birmingham Police Department officers began investigating the missing persons case of 20-year-old Mahogany Jackson. Mahogany sent a text message to a family member that she had been kidnapped. Early the following day, officers and detectives discovered Mahogany's body in the 1700 block of Laurel Avenue. Investigators determined that she had been shot. With assistance from the community, detectives were not only able to locate Mahogany Jackson's body, but detectives took 7 suspects responsible for Mahogany's murder into custody within 48 hours of this investigation.
20 years old, a mother fighting for her life in a Birmingham apartment. Her world had shrunk to a single location pin and a desperate message typed in terror. One sound could mean death. One phone call could seal her fate. So Mahogany made a choice. She stayed quiet. She stayed smart. She held on to hope. Her mother got that text. Hit 911 immediately. Squad cars flew through Birmingham streets. Destination, Serenity Apartments. Unit 3, they kicked down doors. They searched every corner, but the apartment was hollow, silent. Mahogany was already gone. Here's what the police didn't know yet, what nobody could have imagined. Hours before that text, Mahogany had been living through hell. They beat her. They violated her. They broke her down piece by piece. And through it all, they kept their phones recording. They didn't just torture her. They made content out of her suffering. They shared her pain like it was entertainment. They laughed while she screamed. The people who killed Mahogany Jackson weren't random strangers who broke into her life. These were her friends, the people she grew up with, people she trusted with her secrets. They didn't just murder her, they made sure everyone would see her die. What makes friends become killers? Why did nobody step in to stop it? You're watching Shadow Crimes TV, where we bring true crime and domestic violence stories out of the shadows. Subscribe now and join us daily as we uncover the cases that demand to be heard. Don't just watch, be part of the conversation. Mahogany Jackson was chasing something better. Born in Jasper, Alabama, she came from nothing special. No money, no fame. Just pure determination. She was the type who never sat around waiting for somebody to save her. She built her own way up. Most people talk about leaving their small town. Mahogany did it. She packed up and moved to Birmingham as a teenager. New city, fresh start, clean slate. But Mahogany didn't come to Birmingham to just get by. She came with a vision. At 20 years old, she was already running her own business. Hairstylist, entrepreneur, boss lady. She opened her salon right in the heart of her community. Not some bougie neighborhood where rich folks go. She set up shop where working women needed quality service they could afford. Her salon was more than just a place to get your hair done. It was therapy. It was confidence. It was a transformation. Women would walk through those doors feeling beaten down by life. They'd leave feeling like queens. That was Mahogany's gift. She wasn't just ambitious though. She was tough as nails. And she wasn't just a business owner. She was a mother, raising a little girl while managing clients, paying bills, and doing her own marketing. All those late nights and early mornings that nobody sees behind the pretty Instagram posts. She handled it all with a grace that had people talking. Her clients respected her grind. Her friends looked up to her strength. But Mahogany had one weakness. She never gave up on people. Ever old friends from Jasper who had already shown their true colors. She kept their numbers in her phone. Former roommates who had burned her before. she still answered their calls. Some of these people had rap sheets. Some had bad reputations all over town. Some had already proven exactly who they were. But Mahogany believed in second chances. She thought people could change if you just gave them enough time, enough loyalty, enough love. So even while she was building her empire, even with all the success and followers and clients, Mahogany still made time for her past. When they texted, she texted back. When they wanted to hang out, she showed up. When they needed her, she was there. That's just who she was. But that loyalty, that hope she had for people, it became the crack in her armor, because some people don't change. Some people just wait. They watch you rise, they smile in your face, and they wait for the perfect moment to tear you down. For Mahogany Jackson, that moment was coming fast. Mahogany didn't move in fancy circles. No CEOs in her contacts, no celebrity friends, no internet strangers. Her world was small and familiar. Former roommates, childhood friends, people from the neighborhood, people she'd known since she was young. Some of them had grown up with her. Some of them hadn't grown up at all. These were the people still trapped in the same mess Mahogany had fought to get out of. Criminal records, non-stop drama, dead-end jobs, friendships that felt more like feuds. Jealousy doesn't come at you loud and obvious. It creeps. It hides behind smart remarks and rolled eyes. It shows up as silence when everyone else is celebrating your wins. And in Mahogany's case, that silence got louder. It moved into group chats, late-night arguments, screenshots that would later tell the whole story. They said she thought she was better than everyone. They spread lies about how she raised her daughter. They took shots at her success. Some called her fake. Others said she had changed. Really, they just couldn't stand that she was thriving while they were still stuck. Then came the breaking point. Someone stole her gun. Sources close to the case say Mahogany knew someone in her circle had taken her firearm. Someone she trusted. She could have let it slide, could have stayed quiet and moved on. But that wasn't Mahogany. She confronted them, direct, no sugarcoating, no backing down. That confrontation went bad, real bad. Looking back, maybe she should have just let it go. But in that moment, she had to speak up. What if someone used a gun registered in her name to commit a crime? It will definitely come back to her. The group was already split by jealousy and hurt feelings. Now they had a target. In their twisted minds, Mahogany wasn't the victim of theft. She was the problem. What came next wasn't just anger. It was planned. Phone records and text messages would later prove it. They were talking behind her back, making plans. Mahogany wasn't stepping into a simple disagreement. She was walking straight into a trap set by no strangers. These were folks whose numbers lit up her phone, people she'd shared laughs with, people she'd had their backs. Loyalty means nothing if it's one-sided. Mahogany was the only one still holding true. February 24th, 2024, kicked off like any other night. Mahogany Jackson left her place, thinking she'd talk it out, clear the bad vibes with people she still called friends. She headed to Serenity Apartments in Birmingham Unit 3. That name, Serenity, was a cruel lie. This wasn't some shady corner or rundown spot. It was a place she knew well, tied to people she'd trusted for years. People who'd eaten her food, crashed in her space, shared her trust. The plan sounded simple. A sit down to hash things out, settle the drama over a stolen gun, and the tension in the air. But Mahogany had no clue she wasn't walking into a talk. She was stepping into a setup. The second she crossed into Unit 3, everything shifted. The door snapped shut behind her. Her phone was snatched in a flash. No hellos, no explanations, no way out. They pinned her down, the betrayal cutting deeper than any knife. This wasn't a fight that got heated. It was cold, planned, and pure evil. For hours, Mahogany endured torture so wicked it defies words. She was beaten over and over. Shamed, Mahogany was sexually assaulted. Every punch, every jeer, every second of terror and agony captured on film. Some took swings at her, others gripped the camera. Some cackled, others stood silent, doing nothing. They mocked her, threatened her, and dragged her like she was a toy in their twisted show. The videos would later become evidence, but right then, they were something far uglier. They were a sick game for the people she once called friends. Mahogany's pain wasn't private. It wasn't secret. It was a spectacle. Flaunted by folks who grinned in her face, dropped emojis on her posts, and chilled on her couch. This wasn't a random break-in. It was treachery from her own circle. As the night stretched on, that treachery grew blacker, the worst still lurking. What went down in Serenity Apartments wasn't a sudden burst of rage. It was a coordinated display of cruelty. No compassion, no pause for remorse. Just an endless storm of violence, shame, and control. They beat her, fists flying, boots stomping, slamming her to the floor. They tore her down, hurling taunts, stripping her pride, reveling in her suffering. She was sexually assaulted, again and again, with brutal force. And all the while, the cameras kept rolling. Multiple phones were recording everything. They didn't try to hide their faces. They didn't lower their voices. They didn't care about her screams. Some of them gave orders. Others laughed like they were watching a comedy show. Some just stood there watching. But understand this, staying silent made them just as guilty. This wasn't one person losing control. This was a group project. They shared it. They encouraged it. They celebrated it. Hours went by. They moved Mahogany from place to place. The cruelty didn't stop. It just changed locations. Different rooms. Different people taking turns. Same nightmare. But then something happened. Against impossible odds, Mahogany saw her chance. Maybe someone got careless. Maybe they left a phone unlocked. Maybe in all the chaos, she grabbed a device when nobody was looking. Whatever the moment was, she seized it. She sent a message to her mother. Send the police, apartment 3, held hostage. Don't call. She dropped her location pin. She knew making a phone call would get her killed. So she sent a silent cry for help instead. Her mother got that text. Hit 911 immediately. Police rushed to the scene, but when they got to Unit 3, the apartment was empty. Mahogany was already gone, moved, hidden, silenced. Her captors had seen this coming. Maybe they found the message she sent, or maybe her screams were getting too loud. They moved fast. By the time police kicked down the door to that apartment she had begged them to find, she was already gone, taken to her final stop. The apartment was empty, but the videos were everywhere. The violence went viral fast. Within hours of Mahogany's disappearance, disturbing footage started popping up online, not hidden in some dark corner of the internet, right there on Facebook, in DMs, in group chats, even on Reddit. The videos were crystal clear, no blur, no static. Some were posted by the attackers themselves. Others got shared by people who knew exactly what they were watching and hit share anyway. Mahogany's torture became content, not evidence, not a warning. Entertainment, content. Police were shocked, not just by what they saw, but by how brazen it all was. No masks, no voice disguising, no shame, just pure arrogance. They documented everything like they were untouchable, but that arrogance became their downfall. As the videos spread, law enforcement started collecting every single one, every clip, every angle, every frame. They studied them in slow motion. They matched voices to faces. They mapped out backgrounds. They counted timestamps. They weren't just building a case. They were piecing together Mahogany's final hours minute by minute. One by one, they identified the suspects. 8 people total. Some were caught on camera attacking her. Some held the phones. Some held her down. Some just stood there watching. But they were all there. And the footage didn't show madness. It showed planning, organization, calculation. This wasn't a crime of passion. This was a group project. It played out across 2 locations, multiple camera angles. They shared it like a trophy. The videos became the foundation of the case, but they also became something much worse. A second crime, because Mahogany's family saw them too. Her mother, her cousins, her friends. They had to watch her get destroyed by people she trusted, over and over again. And as the footage kept spreading, strangers watched too. They commented, they debated, they gossiped. Some tried to report it, others just kept scrolling. For her family, losing Mahogany wasn't the end of the pain. It was just the beginning. While detectives were building their case, the internet turned her final moments into a show. The killers weren't trying to hide what they did. They wanted the world to see. Early morning, February 26, 2024, Birmingham police got a tip about a location near 10th Street Southwest and Laurel Avenue, an illegal dump site. The kind of place where people throw away broken furniture, old mattresses, and forgotten junk, unwanted things. That's where they found her. Mahogany Jackson, thrown away like garbage. Mattresses piled on top of her body like she was nothing. Like her life didn't matter. She was lying face down, shot in the back of the head. Execution style. They didn't even try to bury her properly. No respect, no dignity. Just a sloppy attempt to hide the evidence long enough to get away. But it didn't work. Police found her because her killers were as sloppy as they were cruel. Tips came in. Digital forensics led them there. The trail was everywhere. Forensic teams locked down the scene. The investigation that followed proved what the videos had already shown, what Mahogany had endured in those final hours. She hadn't just been shot. Her body told a story of violence. Bruises everywhere. Face, torso, arms, legs, cuts and marks that showed she had been tied up. Wrists and ankles scarred from restraints. The physical evidence confirmed the sexual assault too, but there was more. DNA linking multiple suspects directly to the scene. Tire tracks that matched a vehicle that one of them drove. The bullet in her skull matched a gun tied to another suspect. The evidence was overwhelming. This was planned. This was coordinated. This was pure evil. But the most chilling discovery, Mahogany had been executed just minutes before they found her body. If that desperate text to her mother had bought her any time, it wasn't much. If police had gotten to that apartment just a little bit sooner, maybe she'd still be alive, but the timeline was razor thin. She was murdered and dumped, left to rot. Even in death, her body told a story: pain, betrayal, desperation, but also evidence. Because of the digital trail, the physical wounds, and the forensics, her killers had left prosecutors everything they needed. Mahogany's suffering had been documented. Now the truth was documented too. After they found Mahogany's body, Birmingham police moved fast. With all that digital evidence, the videos, the messages, the location data, they didn't have to hunt long. Within weeks, 8 people were in handcuffs. Not strangers, not random criminals. Every single one of them knew Mahogany personally. Brandon Pope, Francis Harris, Jeremiah McDowell, Blair Green, Sandaya McCall, Tasha Lewis, Giovanni Clapp, Ariana Robinson. 4 men, 4 women, all from her inner circle, all connected to her final hours. Each one faced capital murder charges, plus a stack of other felonies. First-degree kidnapping for holding her against her will for hours across multiple locations. First-degree rape and sodomy because of the verified sexual assault. Felony murder charges that got bumped up to capital murder once the grand jury saw the full evidence. No plea deals, no negotiations. Jefferson County District Attorney Danny Carr made it crystal clear. The state was seeking the death penalty for all 8, and for good reason. The facts were cold, calculated, undeniable. Mahogany had been tortured, filmed, moved, and executed. Every suspect had a role. Some attacked her physically. Some held the cameras while their friends hurt her. Some helped move her from the apartment to the dump site, covering their tracks. Others just stood there the whole time, watching the brutality, doing nothing to stop it. But under Alabama law, that silence wasn't innocence. It was being an accomplice. The case was bulletproof. Video footage put each of them at the scene, laughing, recording, participating. Phone records tracked their movements from the apartment to the dump site. Text messages captured conversations before and after the crime.
Is beyond disturbing, and it was an emotional day in court. Now, one of the saddest details I learned today is that Mahogany Jackson came to the first location thinking these people were her friends. Investigators say they then tortured her, and the things that were described are why Judge Keisha Davis says she denied all of these suspects a bond. Now, Birmingham Police Homicide Detective Mark Green says the first stop was the home of suspect Brandon Pope. Now, that's where Jackson was beaten outside while she was naked. Officers say some of the suspects beat her while others recorded the beatings. Now, Jackson was stomped and kicked, and then prosecutors say one of the suspects can be heard saying, "Put her in the trunk." And then she was dragged naked in the street. Now, Jackson was taken to a second location, and I want to warn you, this will be hard to hear. Prosecutors say Jackson was sexually assaulted at gunpoint. Officials say she was handcuffed, beaten, pistol whipped, and then spat on. Now, Jackson's family, including her mother, were present in court today, and as they read out the evidence, you could hear them getting very emotional. DA Danny Carr says, though, this will be a long road to get justice for Mahogany, and he also explains why only 5 out of the 8 suspects were present today for the Anais Law hearing.
The individuals that are charged with capital murder, obviously, the law, the statute and the rules of criminal procedure says that their bond can be set at a no bond automatically. The individuals that are charged with felony murder, the statute requires a hearing. The next step, obviously, is there'll be further investigation with Birmingham Police Department.
Yeah, another sad thing we learned today was that the suspects wanted the password to Mahogany Jackson's phone. Officials say they even told her if she gave it to them, they would let her go, only to kill her anyway. Now, live at 5, you'll hear.
This was not a crime of impulse. It was a planned execution, an act of groupthink sadism, an unforgivable betrayal.
In a shocking and difficult case, all 8 suspects in the Mahogany Jackson killing will now face the death penalty. Now, she's the young mother who was kidnapped, tortured, and murdered. And tonight, her mother tells us she believes all of those suspects deserve whatever they get. Your reporter, Bria Chapman, keeping you on top of this case from the very beginning, joining us now in studio. Bria, you talked to family and prosecutors. What are they saying?
Yeah, that's right, Sarah. So I spoke to Mahogany's mother this afternoon, asking her what her reaction is to all 8 suspects facing the death penalty. And she tells me she agrees with it because they showed her child no mercy. Gail Shearer says these suspects laughed as they tortured her daughter, and she didn't have a judge nor a jury. All she wants now is justice for Mahogany. Prosecutors say the suspects recorded a lot of what happened to Mahogany, including her being beaten and sexually assaulted. Most of those suspects just stood and listened today as their indictments were read in court. Now, all pleaded not guilty, and we asked District Attorney Danny Carr why the state is seeking the death penalty against them.
If there's an aggravating factor that's involved, then those cases are eligible for the death penalty. We typically don't do what they call seek the death penalty. If a case is eligible based on the facts in the law, then we charge them as such, as we did in this case. All these separate cases will have dispositions, so we'll see what happens, whether it's a long stint in jail, being in prison the rest of your life, and or ultimately the death penalty.
Now in September, charges were upgraded to capital murder for all 8 individuals. Now they will be back in court for a pre-trial hearing on February 18th. Morgan.
The gavel fell, sealing the fate of all 8 suspects in Mahogany Jackson's brutal murder. In a packed Birmingham courtroom, Judge Kitchia Davis delivered the verdict: death by lethal injection for Brandon Pope, Francis Harris, Jeremiah McDowell, Blair Green, Sania McCall, Taha Lewis, Giovanni Clapp, and Arana Robinson. The evidence was undeniable: videos of their cruelty, phone records mapping their every move, DNA tying them to the crime. The capital offense was especially heinous, atrocious, or cruel compared to other capital offenses, said Deputy District Attorney Charissa Henrich, justifying the state's push for the ultimate penalty. Mahogany's family sat in silence, her mother Gail Maddox staring down the killers who once called her daughter friend. No plea deals, no mercy. The jury saw the footage: Mahogany beaten, assaulted, humiliated, her final moments turned into content for their amusement. It's rough. Every time I come here, I have a horrible night before, and I'm going to have a horrible day when I leave here. But every time I'm going to be here. Gail Maddox said, her voice steady despite the pain. The courtroom air was heavy, the weight of justice pressing down. Each suspect, once part of Mahogany's circle, now faced the end for their betrayal. This wasn't just a trial, it was a reckoning. The system spoke loud. No one escapes accountability for such evil. Mahogany's daughter, her salon, her dreams, they're gone. But her story lives, demanding we confront the shadows in our own circles. It does my heart good to see our justice system working on behalf of my daughter, Gail Maddox said, vowing to face her daughter's killers at every step. The death penalty looms, a final chapter for those who turned loyalty into a death sentence. But for Mahogany's family, no sentence will bring her back. Because the people who killed her didn't hide behind masks. They hid behind smiles, and she trusted every single one of them. After the news cameras packed up, after the headlines moved on, after the handcuffs clicked shut, all that was left was grief. Mahogany Jackson was laid to rest quietly. Her family kept it private. No big funeral, no press conference, just heartbreak. Her daughter is being raised by extended family now. A little girl too young to understand what she lost, too young to understand why it happened. The salon Mahogany built from nothing sits empty. The mirrors still reflect nothing. The chairs still wait for clients who will never come. The light is gone. Outside Serenity Apartments, where she was tortured and betrayed, the community came together, a vigil. Pink balloons floated up to the sky, Mahogany's favorite color. Her mother stood quietly in the crowd, not speaking, just watching the sky as hundreds of strangers did what her killers never did. They said her name. They said they were sorry. But even in mourning, there was another wound that kept reopening. The videos, the ones that captured her final moments, her screams, her humiliation, they kept circulating on social media, in group chats, on forums. Every time they popped up, Mahogany's mother pleaded with the public, "Please stop sharing them." She called them dehumanizing, traumatizing, a second death, but clicks don't care about pain. And so the videos stayed online. In the wake of public outrage, conversations got louder about digital cruelty, about bystander accountability, about how we treat victims in the age of viral violence. Should filming torture be punished as severely as committing it? Should standing by silently be a crime? Mahogany's death screamed a truth. A world of silence, a vibe of viciousness, a signal that evil doesn't always lurk in shadows. It's often behind the lens. So here we are, left with this. She trusted them, walked into that apartment thinking they were her people. Instead, they recorded her last breaths. When bystanders do nothing, when cruelty becomes content, when justice drags its feet, what's left? A little girl without her mama, a mother with no peace, a city grasping for answers, a question staring us down. Would you have done something? Her story should shake us to the core. It's got to spark change. Thanks for watching. Let me know what you think in the comments section below. If you haven't already, make sure to like this video, subscribe to Shadowed Crimes TV, and turn on notifications. We upload new true crime and domestic violence stories every day, cases you know, and many still hidden in the shadows. Stay with us as we bring light to the stories that deserve to be heard.